Hi, everyone. Welcome to another interview for the 2020 North American Systemic Constellations Conference scheduled for this November. I'm Jim Shine. I'm the program chair, and today I'm interviewing Peter and Jamy Faust. Peter is in charge of our opening ceremony, and Peter and Jamy are giving a workshop as well. And had some technical difficulties with the interview, so I'm splicing this part in. But I had just asked them how they got involved with constellations and why I was impassioned for them. And Jamy was answering and was talking about how she had started out at the Barbara Brennan School of Energy Healing, and we'll pick it up from there.
Teachers at that school and had been learning quite a few things about techniques about energy and how energy worked. And through a very uncanny turn of events, our dear friend Susan Ulfelder of Washington, Hellinger, D.C., said to us, "You should come and listen to this man, Bert Hellinger." And so through a series of events, we were able to join. We didn't go to the Washington, D.C. Group that she was hosting, but we ended up going to the New York group that Susie Tucker was hosting. And it was the very first group that Susie had, or maybe this first or second group. But what had happened was when we saw Bert, or when I saw Bert working, I was so taken back by what I considered him to be was a master energy healer, that even though he wasn't speaking about energy or chakras or the auric field or any of that, I felt like he was able to work with the field so seamlessly in ways that we had learned how to do while having someone lie down on a table, on a massage table. And yet here he was standing with persons, moving them and bringing them into relationship. And we could see the energy falling into place in the right way. You could see the entanglement, and then you could see it unentangle. And I was just so touched by that, simply too, because I'm also the oldest of 7. And like many of us who come from big families, there was a lot of entanglements, and there was a lot of pain and suffering, and of course, wonderful things too. But I had done so much work on myself and psychotherapy. I'm a therapist myself too, besides an energy healer, that I felt like Bert Hellinger was revealing something to me that I had this longing for. Mm. And I remember thinking, I need to learn this work. I was so, I was just enthralled with it because it touched me so deeply immediately. It wasn't even something I had to look at again. And so my passion grew from that moment, where it just brought everything together, all of the therapeutic work I had been doing on myself and with my clients. It brought together all of the energy work that I had been already doing with clients and had been teaching for 10 years. And that there was just something very beautiful about helping families heal, like the dynamic of a family without the family being there and being present. That I just, my passion started there, and it never really stopped. So I'll just share one anecdote that we kind of followed Bert around for a long time. I mean, that's what we were doing in order to get every morsel we could of him. So, we had studied with Susie's group in New York, as I mentioned, but I remember one time we had gone down to Florida, and there was another Hellinger group in Florida, run by a woman named Drindy Keller at the time. And I remember walking up to Bert at one of the breaks and just kind of walking up to him, and literally as he stood there with his sort of navy blue suit jacket on, and I was not far from him in distance, but I could feel and see very clearly this incredible aura around his body. It was just such a beautiful feeling that I felt this man was the real thing. Like he was practicing what he preached. There was a way in which I trusted his integrity. I trusted his words. And I feel like I want to learn and know what this man can teach me. I want to learn everything he can teach me. And that's how my passion grew. And from that moment, I studied everything. Peter and I both studied everything. I used to call myself a Hellinger groupie because I would go everywhere that he was, especially in the U.S. and then certainly to Germany, to Austria. But that's kind of how it all started, and it's still a passion. Continues to be a passion. And I'm still the oldest of 7. So there, you know. So that really is, it just touched my own personal life. And that's how it remains a passion to me.
Cool. Excellent.
Yeah.
Peter?
Wow, that says it all, love. That's beautiful. I forgot about all that.
Yeah.
I would add 2 things. Like Jamy, I studied energy healing with her at the Barbara Brennan School, and I had been a spiritual healer, energy healer for 10 years. And when we met Bert, it felt for me like the natural progression to go from the individual energy field to the family energy field. Psychotherapy basically works with the individual, and energy healing, all kinds of, I'm an acupuncturist, it works with the individual field of consciousness. And Bert showed us that, you can expand it to the larger field of consciousness of the family. And it just felt like, this is my right natural next step, to study this and to learn from him. But the thing that solidified it for me was when I did my own personal work in constellations in the training program and going through my personal constellations, it changed the 2 primary female relationships in my life. My relationship with my mother, who was still alive at the time, and my relationship with Jamy. And I saw inside of me and in the relationships how they changed because of the work I did in constellations around my mother and females and female lineage and all those entanglements. I saw that, oh my God, my relationship with my mother changed immensely. My relationship with Jamy got so much better, and I could directly relate it to the work that I had done in my constellations. And it's like, this is good medicine. Let me learn it and let me pass it on.
That's when you were talking about following around, I was thinking of, if you remember the band, the Grateful Dead, the Deadhead. I had this picture of Hellinger heads looking around, pitching tents and going to the next workshop. But anyway, thanks. Peter, you are the person in charge of our opening ceremony. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, gladly, Jim. Initially, I was shy to take on that role when I was asked, but as I sat with it and I felt into the whole idea of that, the opening ceremony is the holding container for the conference. And in any constellation, particularly the way Jamy and I look at them, is that we're working with the ancestors. You can't do a constellation without relationship to the ancestors, without relationship to the spirit ancestors and to the larger field of consciousness. And what I felt was this would be an opportunity for all of us at the conference to call in the ancestors and to connect with our ancestors in a group setting. So my vision is that everybody will have an opportunity to participate. And I'm not going to give away too much here, but the openings and the closing ceremony is calling in our ancestors, working with a shamanic approach of the 4 corners of the earth, let's call it that way. And we have a particular way of doing that, which I'm really excited to share with people. And I know that it will be visual, it will be verbal, and it will be an opportunity for everybody to call in and ask the ancestors for their support for this conference as a way to support all of us in our individual breakout seminars and the larger holding container. So it's an opportunity to create the holding container with the support of our ancestors, and then at the end, honoring our ancestors and releasing them. So.
Okay, yeah, I've been on the steering committee with you as you've been planning this, and I won't give away anything either, but I'll just say I think it's a really beautiful ceremony. So, and then you guys are also scheduled to do a workshop called A Shamanic Approach to Spirit Mind Constellations. So you want to tell us a little bit about that in whatever order you choose?
Sure. Do you want me to speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, as you know, Bert taught us that there are 3 levels of constellations. There's ancestral constellations, working with the personalities, and then there's phenomenological constellations, working with phenomena, and then there's the spirit mind constellations, where you're moving into a larger field of consciousness, where you're working with the energies that move through the ancestral field and the family energy field. So, a shamanic approach, or our approach, a shamanic approach to spirit mind constellations, is to move through the first level, which is the personal constellations, and then, using, representatives for people, and then moving, and then whatever the phenomena are, that are in the constellation. But the intention from a shamanic perspective is to, as a facilitator, to hold the concept that our job is to help the client move through these levels and into the spirit mind, which is the ancestral energy field, past the personality, past actually the phenomenological that caused the entanglement, and help them move into spirit, where they're getting the healing from the spirit realm. That's a shamanic approach. So in a shamanic way of working, you help and train the mind through drumming, through chanting, through sound, through rattling. Once a client is moving and they pass the personality of let's say, the father, and they pass the trauma of, let's say, the loss of the father or the death, and then they move into the ancestral field, our job is, as shaman/facilitators, is to bring them there and hold them there by supporting them through drumming, through chanting, through singing, and all the representatives and the facilitators are holding that space and literally going with them. That's the spirit mind, being in attune with the person as they go there and they receive the healing from the ancestral field. And then they come back. We come back with them through reversing the process, slowing down the drumming, throwing down the chanting, slowing down the rattling, until they come back. And then, just like in any shamanic practice, they report what healing and what they received from the other side, from the spirit field. So that's our shamanic approach to spirit mind constellations.
Sounds great. Anything you want to add, Jamy? Or?
Just the only thing I'd like to add is that when we do that here in Boston at our during our immersion program, it's been just such a lovely experience to watch each and every. No one is separate; everyone is completely interconnected to the work. I've noticed it move deeper than a facilitator directed constellation, or even just movements of the soul where people are just doing whatever movements they feel like they can do. There's something about allowing the sort of, again, the words we're using is shamanic, just because our language is a bit limited, but the shamanic energies, we'll say, to bring the whole group comes and moves into that field. And what we've noticed too is those who are the participants will get these tremendously deep healings, even though they weren't necessarily in the representative role, but rather observer participants. And they, some people will begin to cry, begin to really, you can see they've gone really deeply, holding themselves, maybe just breathing deeply, but the room is affected. It's like the whole room attunes in a way that I haven't seen that happen in just the regular constellations that we've been doing all along. It's like a new way to bring the interconnectedness of all beings into the work.
Can I add to that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. It's as if the client, because of their willingness to go deep into the field of consciousness, they take all of us who are in tune with them, and then everybody gets a healing. And the same way, the representatives, the participants, and the facilitator has to be willing to go into that field of consciousness with them. So it's a duality where we are supporting the client, but the client is bringing us with them. And then that healing reverberates through the client, back through the representatives, and like Jamy said, then into the field, the participant field. So we're all part of it. So it's a way of working where one person works, but everybody gets a healing. If everybody is in tune, like Bert taught us, you have to be in tune. And the way we do that is through entrainment, through music, through rattling, through drumming, through sound. And so we all get in sync to go and then to return. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So the only last thing I'll say is it happened completely spontaneously. And it's not something we said, oh, let's try and do this in our constellations. We just started it. There was a drum sitting by my chair and we have rattles on an altar. It was just like, kind of like spontaneous musicians jamming together in a way, you know, and it was beautiful because it worked. It just felt like we could enter into that energy. I trusted even more because it didn't come from the mind. Oh, let me do this.
Let me try this. It was like the field taught us how to do it.
Yeah, I'd say that too.
The ancestors taught us.
Yeah. So you can hear our passion. We'll keep going. Yeah, I know we probably have a limited time, Jim, but
no, you're fine. And yeah, no, I mean, it's the beauty of the field. The more you're in it, the more it acts on you. And you guys are elders, so you're way up there. So, anything else you want to add?
Just thank you for doing this, Jim. Thank you for asking us to be interviewed. Thanks for, you know, all the work you do and directing the program. And we look forward to seeing you when we see you, not too far from now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would second that, Jim. Thank you for your contribution to this path. But also to all the people that are watching this, thank you for showing up and doing your work through Family Constellations and letting this continue to flourish throughout the world. It really is an opportunity for us to, it is a great path of healing. So thank everybody for the work you've done on yourself and your contribution to healing families everywhere.
Okay. Jamy and Peter, thanks so much for spending the time out of your busy schedules to do this. And like you said, we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Okay.